Good afternoon, everyone. This is Joanna Lalikas, and I work with North Carolina Cooperative Extension through the Center for Environmental Farming Systems. I serve as the Extension and Training Coordinator for the North Carolina Growing Together project and also coordinate Extension's Local Foods flagship program. Rebecca Dunning, who you see also pictured here, and I will be moderating the webinar today, and we wanted to just thank you all for joining us. I'm sure we'll have a few other folks coming on here in just a moment. Just briefly, the background for the Farmer Idea Lab series. This is the third in the series today, Farm Transitions. The webinar series is intended to provide opportunities for farmer-to-farmer sharing. It's an opportunity for you as farmers and service providers to hear success stories and lessons learned from other farmers. We hope that you'll come away with new ideas to help your farm become more profitable, and we also hope you'll leave inspired to continue to evaluate your farm business as you adapt to changing times, changing markets, and new opportunities. So I just wanted to thank our sponsors today. As I mentioned, I work with the NC Growing Together project. That's an initiative of the Center for Environmental Farming Systems. Our other sponsors include Farm Bureau, the NC State Horticultural Science Department, and of course North Carolina Cooperative Extension. Quickly, the agenda for today. Rebecca Dunning will provide the introduction here momentarily. Cliff Pilson then will talk about farm transitions. Cliff is with C.V. Pilson Farm here in North Carolina, and he'll talk for about 25 minutes, and then we'll have time for some questions. And again, you can type your questions into the chat box at any point during the presentation, and Rebecca Dunning will moderate those questions, and we'll have Cliff answer some questions at that time. So I'll introduce Rebecca here. Rebecca Dunning works as a researcher and project manager at CEFS, the Center for Environmental Farming Systems. She focuses on food system development and manages the CEFS NC Growing Together project, which is a supply chain initiative to build connections between small and mid-scale producers and mainstream market partners, such as grocery retailers and food service companies. So with that, Rebecca, I'll hand it over to you. If you can unmute your phone, and I'll hand this over to you. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Joanna. I met Cliff through this project, the NC Growing Together project, and I was probably introduced to him by Ariel Fugate, who's a graduate of NC State. And in her last semester of school, she interned at Lowe's Food Stores, and then she started working with Lowe's as their local purchasing account representative. And she worked at the NC Growing Together project as well. And Cliff was selling and still sells it to several Lowe's stores. And the last slide of this presentation, you'll see him with his strawberries at the Lowe's store in Pinehurst. So what we asked Cliff to do today is to walk us through a bit of the history of his family's farm. And Cliff, if you could also mention where you are and some characteristics of the farm, how it's changed over time, and how it has transitioned from tobacco and sweet potatoes into a host of other products, selling into a lot of different market channels, wholesale, retail, farm stands, farmers market, direct to grocery stores. And as questions come up, I might jump in, or I might just wait until the end so Cliff gets to his last slide, so I won't interrupt him. So Cliff, you want to go ahead and take it away?
Okay. Well, our farm's been in operation for probably 100 or so years from where we are currently. I know my grandparents farmed this land. My grandpa, he farmed tobacco and sweet potatoes, which is where my dad picked it up from. I'm a fifth generation farmer, and I'm not sure about my great-grandparents, whether they were farming here or not. I never really asked those interesting questions like I should have when I was younger. My grandparents are gone now, so now I'd like to know, but I can't really get that. But I know my grandparents, farmed it. My dad, all the kids did. They had 6 children. They all farmed when they were younger. My dad, he was the only one who wanted to make it his career and follow in his dad's footsteps. one of the 6, and my dad really turned it into a business outside of just supporting the family. He really turned it into something more, and now he has several hundred acres of land. At first it was maybe 20 to 30 acres is what my grandparents had. So my dad, he's really put in a lot of time and hard work to make it go. And he's also helped me definitely to get where I am today and to be able to follow in his footsteps. It's really nice because I definitely love doing what I do. I don't feel like I work a day because I enjoy what I wake up to do in the morning. And when I was younger, I didn't really think I was going to be a farmer when I was younger. Didn't really like it. I've kind of always, I don't really take too well to authority. And my dad, he would always, make me get up in the morning, do this and do that, and I didn't really like it. And, I told him I was really interested in sports, and I was like, well, I'll just do something with that. And but I've definitely changed that, and I'm here. I really started when I took all 4 classes of agri-science in high school, and my sophomore year, my teacher, he was speaking about flowers and how you can make cuttings and grow flowers and sell them and stuff. And around that time I was just getting my license, and I was needing money to buy my gas and do this and that. And so I asked my dad, because he used to grow tobacco. He stopped 10 years ago, and about that time it had probably been maybe 3 years since he hadn't grown anything, and he had a greenhouse that he used to grow his tobacco plants in. And I asked him if he thought it would be okay if I grew flowers in the greenhouse, because my teacher taught me how to do it in class and sell them so I could make me a little money. And of course he said yeah, and he would help me out, and he did. And I mean, looking back at it now, I know probably didn't make any money at all. He just let me see a little something so I could enjoy it and start to like it. I'm sure if I would fall flat on my face when I was 15 or 16 trying to make any kind of money out of something, I probably wouldn't have went back to it. But he definitely footed the bill for me, and started me off on the right foot with farming. And I used to sell. We have a community close by us called Wood Lake Country Club, and I have many houses there, and they kind of supported me because I was young and trying to do something with the farm and stuff. I'd sit out there on the corner near where they would come in and out of their road every day, and they'd come by and buy flowers from me when I got off of school and on the weekends and stuff. So they really helped me get going too. So I grew flowers for maybe 3 or 4 years, and it didn't really work out. Once I really got to learning about the money and how much it costs to grow the flowers it didn't really work out, and I got to noticing I really like growing my produce a lot more than flowers. Squash and strawberries and sweet potatoes and everything else. The picture that's up there right now, that's some of my old tobacco barns. And that's actually where I got produce at this year. So it's it's nice that he still has a lot of his old tobacco equipment out and stuff. But yeah, the greenhouse didn't work out for me, so I just I went started growing the produce, focusing more on that. My dad, this is going to be my 4th strawberry season, growing, looking after my strawberries, and my produce as well. And when I first started, he kind of just let me go. I was 19. I grew the product. I looked after it. I watered it. Whatever it needed to be done, I sold it. I marketed it. I just remember going out there and trying my best. Anyways, he would just let me kind of do my thing, which was probably best for me, just to let me kind of learn on my own experience. And that definitely probably cost him some money along the way learning, but hopefully I think it was probably worth it, him teaching me those lessons and such. But now we grow about 15 acres of various produce items, and about 100 acres of sweet potatoes. And the picture right there is of some of our sweet potatoes. The year before last, the variety is Covington's. They grow really well. They're really pretty, as you can see in the picture. Pretty number 1s, which is definitely your goal when you're growing sweet potatoes. And we sell our sweet potatoes. My dad's been selling the food line for 40 years, and it's started that when he was 23 years old, and I'm currently 23 years old, and I'm just now officially taking over the operation. And when there's a neat little story behind how he got to sell his sweet potatoes to Food Line. He used to, just like I do with my produce, I sell to several different stores and grocery stores and restaurants, and he started out that way, but he didn't have any places in this area. He was more in the Asheville area selling, and take boxes of sweet potatoes here or there to different stores, trying to sell what he could sell. And a few of the stores, they were called Food Town. Food Line used to be Food Town when it first started, and I guess he was always selling good product, which is what he's always taught me to do, which is what I stand by. And he come in one day to one of the locations, and the produce manager told him that the boss had left a note to say, "Chester Pilson, you don't leave until I, get to speak with you." And my dad, it was later in the evening, and he had to hurry up and get to the other stores before they were going to close on him. It was going to get dark, and so he didn't really know what to think about that, and he was definitely nervous. And but he come in, maybe 45 minutes later. My dad waited on him, and he was a really tall man. He had a really booming voice, as my dad explains to me. Made him good and nervous when he was talking to him, because he didn't really know what he wanted at first. And he just asked him, he said, "You want to sell to all my stores?" And my dad said, "Wow, that would be great, yeah." And that's kind of how that started. And good friends with my dad ever since. They started their warehouse. My dad started packing sweet potatoes. As you see on this picture here, he's had this sweet potato packing line ever since he was 23. That's where we pack all of our sweet potatoes. We can pack them year-round. But getting back to my story, his name was Clifford Ray, and he was one of the 6 people that started Food Line when it first was Food Town. And I'm not exactly sure the story behind changing Food Line, but anyways, it's neat because I'm named after him, and he's my godfather. today. But I never got to meet him. He passed away before I was old enough to really remember him. But his wife is still alive, and I still get to see her regularly, 3 times a year. That picture's my dog. He loves sweet potatoes, and I just love to take pictures of him. He loves eating about everything. He'll eat squash, cucumbers, all my produce, so it's really neat how my dad got started in his operation, and now he's letting me start off, my produce operation, sort of how he started his sweet potato operation. He always told me you got to crawl before you walk, so I definitely been learning that the hard way, whether I liked it or not. And getting back to the places that I sell to for my produce, because my dad's sweet potato market's already, he's got that down pat because he's been doing that for such a long time. And I sell in town, Southern Pines, Pinehurst area. I sell to Lowe's Food, Harris Teeter, many different restaurants in the area. We have an on-farm stand. We're going to open up which is what you see in the picture there, where we sell a lot of our flowers and strawberries and just any produce item that we have available at the time. And in downtown Southern Pines this year, I'm going to open up a retail stand there, so I'll have 2 retail stands, which is what I've learned. Most definitely, you have to play both sides of the fence if you're going to do produce and try to make it successful as an operation. You have to have wholesale and retail, because obviously wholesale's a lot cheaper price, and if you have to just grow large quantities of your different produce items. But if you're going to be a small produce farmer, the more that you can sell retail, the more successful that you'll be in the long run, which is what I'm trying to get towards by opening up my store in Southern Pines. And I hope it's going to work out. We're just now fixing it up, so hoping to open up the first week of May would be nice. So I can still have some of my strawberries and other produce items will be coming in then. My biggest challenge for pretty much the whole operation is probably to make it successful is probably comes down to two main points, and that's what I can sell my product for, and obviously how much it costs me to grow it, which sounds simple, but it's a lot more deep and in depth than that. There's so many restaurants they understand that your products are much different than what they can get off of the Go truck, and they're willing to pay a better price for your product because it definitely tastes way better and it looks way better. But what I've learned with selling to grocery stores, they don't really care as much about that. I've had an example about it. I tried to sell sweet potatoes to a particular grocery store, and what he had on the shelf really didn't look pretty at all. They were probably sweet potatoes that I probably would have culled, but he was getting them for a nice price, and that's what he was selling them. And I was wanting, my price was $3 or $4 a case higher than what he was buying them for, and he showed me on his price list there and told me if I could match that, he would buy from me. Otherwise, he wasn't really going to buy anything from me, and that's one of my biggest challenges there, because I think I'm going to grow something for them, and then they hit you with a price. Well, if you can sell it to me as cheap as, the guy with 300 acres, then you can sell it to me. I can't do that because I only got 3 acres, and it won't work. The other, larger farmer, he can grow his tomatoes or such and make $1 a box and sell 1 million boxes, and at the end of the day his bank account looks pretty good. But if I make $1 a box and sell 10 boxes, I wasted my time. Shouldn't even grow them for that. But the biggest difference is the looks. They're going to pick theirs green, and then they're going to gas them. They put them in a big tractor trailer, and then they gas them with ethylene so that they ripen, and they do not open up that truck for the whole route from California to here, from Florida to North Carolina, wherever they're going. And so when they open them up, they're just turning pink, and they're just changing their color. So when they get them on the grocery store shelf, they'll be decently ripe for customers, when they were just picked green from the start and don't have any flavor at all. Same way with strawberries. That's probably my biggest hurdle there is trying to make the larger operations like your chain stores and such understand. You have a premium for your product because it's a lot better than what, and it's a lot healthier too, because you lose a lot of vitamins in shipment. So it's healthier for you and better tasting and looks better, just all around better. But their bosses are telling them, hey, what are you doing paying him 50 cents more a box for? You can be making this much more on the bottom line. I don't care what it looks like. So that's definitely my biggest hurdle there. But with my short-term goal is probably just really getting on my feet, growing the produce, really getting it down pat, learning how to do it, being successful at it, and starting my retail store in town, getting it to going, being successful. My uncle, he owns the place that I'm going to be selling at, and he's going to rent it out to me, and he's really successful. He owns a restaurant and a health food store and stuff in town, and he's been doing the retail operation for 30 years. He really knows the ins and outs, and he's definitely my mentor on that side, so I'm feeling pretty good about being successful there. And long-term goal is really just be successful and continue farming. That's especially it, because I love doing what I do. I want to keep doing it for as long as I possibly can. And piece of advice for high school students or people in college or just farm families in general is, definitely don't let the farm go away. I can't stand to see nice farmland that's just gets sold up for houses and such. I understand you're going to have some of that, because we're a growing population, but definitely need to try and keep farm families around, because there's few and far between now. That's pretty much the gist of my operation, where I'm at, and what I'm trying to do with farming. And I appreciate everybody's time and listening to me today.
Thanks, Cliff. That was great. I have a few questions that I'm going to pop in, and if others want to jump in on the chat room, that would be great. I wonder about the retail store. Is that something that are you going to operate it year-round, and are you going to have products other than your own produce? What are your thoughts on that? How are you going to operate it?
As far as year-round, I'm not sure Probably not. I'm mainly focused on keeping it my product. I sell what I grow there, fresh, pick day up, taken to the store. I'm going to try to be different than the grocery stores. Otherwise, people will just look at me as a Walmart or a Food Line, and then they'll say, well, I'll just go get it from there because you got the same stuff. So I'm definitely going to try to be different. And as far as year-round, and if I don't have any products other than my own, it will only be if it's something that I can't provide myself on the farm that I can source from somebody who's local, then I would do that and put their name on it, not mine, so that the people know it's not grown by me. But as soon as I can and learn how to grow it, I will grow it, and it will be supplied by me. So.
And do you think that your restaurant customers, you could also source them, from that store? You could have restaurants where they'd be able to come in, if they wanted local products, they could come in and pick it up there. You already have some accounts in Southern Pines that you could work with?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I think that'll probably help me out. The convenience of the restaurant, because sometimes they don't always need a lot. And, they may just be short for the weekend and need 10 pounds of tomatoes to finish out or something, and they could just run right up there because I'll be 5 minutes down the road from them, and they'll be able to get that, and it'll probably benefit the both of us.
Here we have a question that someone has asked about how you're calculating. How can you figure whether or not you're profitable and what you should charge on your particular produce products? Do you figure it in a spreadsheet, or do you use something like Veggie Compass or some kind of budgeting software? How do you make those pricing decisions?
Well, what I do is I look at the wholesale market, and then I'll look at the retail market and see the difference, and then I'll go to like Lowe's Food, I'll go to Harris Teeter, Fresh Market, compare those prices. I never check Walmart because my product's way different than what Walmart is. They're really cheap on everything. I'm sure everybody knows. I'll check the more higher end retail outlets, especially Fresh Market. They usually get a pretty good price for their product, and then I'll go from there and see how mine compares to what they got on the shelf, and I'll take it from there. And then I got a pretty good idea of production that I should be getting per acre of different products, and I also adjust based on that too, because I've been doing it a few years, and I can take that, and from that way I know how much it kind of costs me to grow it and stuff. There's always variables, but that's in everything. But that's basically what I do.
Did you, because you're anticipating opening your store this summer, did you put in a bigger variety of products that you're trying to grow for the coming up season, so that you'll have a greater range and like fewer kinds, but more kinds, but a smaller amount, so that you can have more variety in the store? Or are you pretty much doing like you've been doing the last couple of years in variety of production?
Yeah, I definitely grew a lot more this year, quantity-wise and variety-wise, in hopes of bringing different varieties to the store for people to get. And convenience is really key. I think if they're just going to come to me, if I was just to sell strawberries and tomatoes and sweet potatoes, some people aren't going to come because I didn't have them some squash and cucumbers and green beans at the same time, where they just go to the Fresh Market, pick that up because that's what they needed. They could get it all at once and go home because they're busy and don't really necessarily have the time. So that's definitely what I did. I grow a lot more varieties so that I could add to the convenience of coming and purchasing product from my store.
What about season extension? I saw there's some greenhouses. Is that are you currently using those now for any of your products? And were those put in recently?
Yes, yeah, we have.
Also have any other way that you do season it?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, in our greenhouse, which is this is my dad's old tobacco greenhouse, 240 foot by 200, and we do greenhouse tomatoes in it. Currently, we start those from seed around Thanksgiving every year, and then we'll plant them in the greenhouse around the first week of January, and we're harvesting them currently. And we stop harvesting those the middle to the end of June as soon as our field tomatoes come out, because when those come out, prices drop and it's not even worth selling the greenhouse tomatoes anymore because nobody wants them because of the price. Season extension, other than that, don't have any way to extend my season in the fall. I've been working with my soil officer to help me get a high tunnel so that I can grow an extra crop of tomatoes in the fall so that they don't get that first frost in November, and hopefully I can pick for another 3 weeks and extend the tomato crop. I usually get 4 crops in a year of tomatoes, including my greenhouse, and if I could get a high tunnel, I should be able to get an extra in there. So that's what I'm looking at there.
And for the tomatoes, do you sell those to all of your different market channels? Do those go through your farm stand and grocery stores and wholesalers, or is it just for farm stand, or how does that play out?
Yep, I sell them to everybody. I just base it on priority. My store gets it first because that's my best price, and I try and take care of my people at my store over anything. And then second, I'll go to my restaurants, and then third, I'll go to my grocery stores if need be. Try not to. The price isn't as good, but if the production's there, I'll definitely have to make that call, or sometimes your restaurant doesn't need it and you have to juggle that around. But I definitely base it off of priority because of price, the different markets. But I sell to all three.
And do you do any kind of, I mean, not contract so much, but do you feel like you have kind of pretty firm handshake agreements with wholesalers and stores about what they're going to purchase from you, or is it just every time you meet, you're kind of making a deal every time you meet?
Yeah, it's more of a handshake agreement. Nothing on paper. It's kind of hard to get contracts on paper for produce, but like my Lowe's Feeding Pioneers, the manager, he's really happy with what I've been bringing, and I've been doing business with him for 3 years, and he's told me if I can grow it, he'll buy it. So I'm under the understanding that they're a man of their word, most all the managers and stuff. So I'm sure every once in a while maybe I'll run into where, no, I didn't say that, and I don't want this, but that's just the nature of wholesale business, as my dad has taught me, and he has learned the hard way in sweet potatoes, because it gets tough sometimes in sweet potatoes.
So like you said, you have to play both sides, or all sides of the fence, so you're kind of protecting yourself.
Yes, most definitely.
And I have a question about, again, about business skills. So there's production skills and marketing and sales skills. So what would be your advice to new or younger farmers on how to develop their business skills? If maybe they know production really well, but they're not so knowledgeable about how to market their product and sell their product into new channels, what would your advice be?
Well, I was really lucky because I had my dad to go off of. He pretty much taught me everything as far as business goes. I'm just watching him and how he would negotiate and speak with people and I mean, I would just sit there and watch him when he was on a call talking with somebody about selling sweet potatoes, just to soak it in and understand just how it works when I was young, because I didn't really understand. So I was kind of lucky at that, and also I just soak it in from other people too. When I might go to a restaurant and the chef might be on the phone with so and so about doing something for the business, and I'll just soak in how he's talking and what he's telling them, and whether it works, it gets the job done, or what. I was more lucky on that. I didn't have to go to school to learn any of my skills, because my dad's experience fed off of that. So if I didn't have him, I really don't know what I would have done. I guess I most definitely would have went to state and learned about farming like that. But other than that, I was just lucky, so I had my dad to learn from.
Look, let's say you were going into a restaurant, so I've heard that it's kind of hard to, new farmer or someone maybe who's been selling at the farmer's market but then wants to expand into restaurants or to sell direct to a grocery store, to know, when to go to the restaurant, who to ask for, and sort of the initial thing that you say. So can you give some advice, like if I was a young farmer and I met you at the farmer's market and I want to go and visit these 3 restaurants that I know of, what would be my best way to go? What would be your advice to me?
Well, you're definitely going to have to bring them some of your stuff. More times than not, if you're just going there to talk to them, telling them who you are, what you grow, you're not going to get the benefit of the doubt, which you'll get more of a chance if you bring product and it looks good. And you wouldn't want to just bring your absolute top shelf best strawberries, biggest ones that you had out there in the field, because you're going to bring that to them and let them see it. And then when you actually bring strawberries mixed of everything, then they're going to think you were trying to run them around, But most places, when I try to set up a new market, I just bring them product, drop it by, talk to them, ask for the chef, ask who buys what, who runs the operation. And most of the time they're pretty nice. They'll tell you the chef, they'll let you talk to them. You're going to get some places that is another route to that, but that's just in everything. But it's always no if you don't ask, definitely.
And with the grocery store, would that be the same thing? You kind of go in with some of your product and ask to speak to the produce manager?
Yep. That's kind of what I did, and a lot of it's also who you know. Buddy that works for me, he worked at the local Harris Teeter for 5 years before I tried to sell to him, and so I kind of already had my foot in the door when I went to talk, because he knew him very well, and so I was lucky there. But mostly you bring your stuff by and talk to them is what I've been doing, and found it pretty successful.
As far as kind of new, specialty type products, following trends like kale is real big, collards getting big. Do you see anything that you're interested in following as far as a trend, or a product like orange beef or something else, or Asian vegetables that you would try to, get into, some kind of an ethnic market? Is there anything you're thinking of, kind of, as far as that, going in those directions?
Yeah. Not so much. Maybe once I get on my feet a little better as far as the operation entirely, because this is my first year really running it all by myself. So I feel once I'm successful in growing what I do and doing what I do now, then I'll step out and try and look at new opportunities and such like that. But currently I don't want to get in over my head with something I don't really know how to grow yet. I just want to stick with what I do and do it really well first before I really branch out.
For your infrastructure, as far as distribution, cold storage on the farm, where your farm stand is and your kind of collection site, do you have any kind of cold storage there, like forced air or hydro cooling? And then when you distribute, you distribute in a refrigerator truck, or how does that work?
Yeah, we have 3 coolers that can get down to 32 degrees if need be. That's where I keep all my produce, strawberries and blackberries and peaches. I have 2 coolers at our sweet potato warehouse that are just air conditioner units, so we can keep our sweet potatoes to 55 to 60. And when we make deliveries, last year I just used my truck, my personal truck, and I would fill the back of it up produce and turn my air conditioner on. And because I'm just 15 minutes from town, the produce isn't going to be sitting there that long. So as long as it was chill enough in my truck, and then like tomatoes and sweet potatoes and stuff, I would have in the back and have a little roll cover on there that I could take out and open and close real easy, so I could make my deliveries. This year I have me a produce truck, which is a cooler refrigerated truck. So because I plan on doing more stores and stuff, so I got me one for that this year.
Was that a used truck, and was that pretty easy to find or reusable?
Yeah, it was a used truck, definitely, and it was. It's easy to find if it depends on how picky you are, I guess. I was pretty picky, so I've been looking for probably a year and just thinking about the idea of getting one, and then I knew I needed one this year, so I got lucky and ran across one in December, and that was pretty much perfect. And I went and got it. I just got it from Penske Truck Rentals. They take care of their trucks really well, so I knew buying a used one from them would probably be a good idea.
And I think maybe this might be the last question. I hate to end with food safety, but people are always, interested and somewhat worried if they haven't gone through it before, the GAP certification, the auditing. Can you tell us about your experience getting certified and how much trouble it is to upkeep that certification?
Well, for me, it's worth it because it got my foot in the door to several different places, especially on the wholesale side, because it made me different than the next guy that was trying to grow stuff. And a lot of your wholesalers are going to demand for you to be GAP in the future. So if you just go on and be GAP, you'll be more successful in your endeavors and the places that you're trying to go. And it's not bad being GAP. They have several different rules and stuff that are just ridiculous, but that's just the nature of the business. You're always under different rules that you just don't really understand, but you just have to do it if you're going to stay in operation. So I don't think it's that bad.
So now when you're every year with your check, about how much does it cost you every year just to get recertified for GAP? And do they just come out one time a year?
He's going to come out twice. He's going to come out once for a planned visit for an inspection, and then he'll come out again for unannounced inspection to make sure you're doing right. He charges $90 an hour. He charges from the time he gets in his vehicle, wherever he is located at, to the time he gets back to his spot. And it probably cost me $1,200 to get GAP certified, and all the paperwork and timing that you have to put into it, and all the extra that make you keep up with everything. It's fairly costly, but for my operation, the size that it is, it's worth it.
Well, Cliff, this is Joanna. Thank you so much. We are out of time. I really appreciate your time. I know it's getting into a busy season for you. Your strawberries are coming ripe. You've got a lot going on, so thank you for taking time out to share your story today. Folks, we have recorded this, and we will post that to the Farmer Idea Lab site. You see the website here. Once that's recorded, that recording is finalized and captioned, we are going to talk about how the Farmer Idea Lab series went this spring, and we hope to return with a new webinar in the fall. So watch that website again in the fall, and we'll post to the same listservs that we did this time. And if you would help us out, we'd like to hear how this has gone for you, and suggestions you have for updating, improving, and changing or keeping the same these Farmer Idea Lab webinars. So I posted into the chat box a link to a survey. I'm going to try and send it out to you as well through a sharing tool on the webinar platform. Hopefully this will open up the survey in your web browser. So thank you all for being here. Cliff, thank you. Rebecca, thank you for moderating today. We appreciate all the good information. Hope you all have a great afternoon.